Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to ramble about Patreon. First, big thank you to my first two Patreon patrons, which are Pariah Forsaken and Matt Icarus. Two people who are not related to me and not giving me mercy money. That was awesome. I was like, yay, it's not my mom. And although I'm going to be very critical of Patreon and mob mentality in the coming weeks, because I plan to talk about this a bit, and I'm very kind of I feel like a punk band selling out. I'm against this system, but here I am using it. It's important for me to use it because my channel fills in a spot in the graph of channel size versus Patreon output, and I felt like being part of the numbers as I'm doing this analysis, some of which will come out at a later date because I'm working on it. But thank you to my two patrons, and I welcome more. What I'm going to talk about today is the effect Patreon can have on channels, and where the positive returns might stop. Okay? Because a channel like the size of mine, I feel like it would benefit from a little bit more than $2 per month donations, and positive returns from that. What would be better about the videos on this channel? They would probably stop getting better at a certain point. Okay? I am nowhere near that point at $2. I would not be near that point at $200 a month. But at a certain point, there's nothing more that I could do with the money, and that's what I want to talk about today. Okay? And added in this, I'm going to throw in the AdSense revenue that this YouTube channel creates and other YouTube channels create, because that's also revenue that I'm getting from making videos. That actually does affect what I do online on YouTube. Mostly I give out more money than I make per year on YouTube to certain charities. Because they're perennial things, and if you add up everything that I give to every little charity that gets run on YouTube, 20 here, 20 there, bing, that's more than I make on YouTube. So I'm putting more into the system than I'm getting out, and I'm not really investing into video quality. But if I were making more, I would. I would say, this is starting to generate more money. Let's invest the money that it's generating into making even more better videos and more money. It's just a natural progression. But I can foresee where there wouldn't be any better thing that I could get out of this, to make better videos for you. I could get a better camera, better computer, better microphone, better software, all that hardware and equipment. I could get tickets to something that was rare to see to bring to you guys. I could eliminate my job, and only dedicate my time to YouTube videos, which some people have. All of these things could make anybody's videos better. But after that, there's a point that anyone would hit where the returns on quality of video would not get any better. And I'm going to say that if you are making enough money with your YouTube channel via AdSense revenue and Patreon to, say, equal the median income of the United States, you've eliminated your job, and pretty much all your expenses are making YouTube videos. You don't really have a commute. You're not paying at the gas pump. You eat. You make videos. You comment on comments that you've gotten. You reply. That's all you do. If that's about the best that you can expect somebody to, give you better returns. After that point, what would make their videos better? Airfare, that would be a couple good videos a year. I suppose could come out of them getting a little bit of airfare out of their Patreon, but really, even a travel expense budget of $10,000 above the median income of somebody in the United States. That's about it. Okay? Now I'm going to go over some numbers with you. And this time I'm going to pick on The Amazing Atheist. Now, last time I made a video like this, I was wrong in my numbers and I pulled the video. Okay? And that was because I didn't understand the mechanism on Patreon that is not the monthly subscription basis. That, when people get paid per video, they can choose the videos that they charge for, and my numbers were twice what Thunderfoot was actually charging, because he doesn't charge for every video. And at that time, this was half a year ago, I had done a calculation whereby Thunderfoot was 1% of all Patreon donations. When in fact, when I recalculated, he was more like 0.5% at that time. And it was easy to do that calculation because Patreon came out and said, yay, for the first time ever, we have $1 million worth of Patreon donations in a month. And by my calculation, at $2,500 a video, Thunderfoot with 4 videos could have made $10,000. This is easy math, people. $10,000 versus $1 million. But it was actually $5,000 that month. So it was 0.5%. And I was, at the time, a little bit miffed that this is something that was originally meant for other types of artists who find it harder to monetize their stuff. They don't have AdSense for painters on DeviantArt, You can have your own website and put Google ads, but you're not going to get paid near as much as AdSense on a YouTube channel. So the fact that YouTubers are taking over, in another means of collecting money from an audience, it just, to me, it's like, this method wasn't meant for YouTubers, but they dominate that too. And, maybe it's good in that it's going to introduce people to other media that they could be supporting, because the YouTubers are just more popular. Video, it's not going away, But it's concerning to me that a good portion of Patreon goes to YouTubers. In fact, now they actually have a pie chart, which I'll link below in the description box if you're really curious. Back when I was doing these numbers, they didn't have pie charts that they were offering to the public. Now they do, and they're running their own numbers, so I don't have to do the hard math. But fast forward a couple months, there have been a couple people who have oddly gained on Patreon more than others. If you look at the difference between the True Puka and Noel Plum 99, and then go look at Rebecca Watson, who basically has a cult fan base of feminists who are giving her more than the median income of the United States, and more than any blogger ever. You know, these things have happened, and I'm going to address them in a different video. Today, I'm just going to talk about The Amazing Atheist, because he's a big YouTuber that I'm familiar with over years. I've been subscribed to this guy because I enjoyed some of his videos. Some of you don't. Some of you do. A lot of you do, because he's got like 1 million fucking subscribers, right? How many subscribers does The Amazing Atheist have? 725,000 as of this video. So my hyperbole was not that far off. Okay, so to start with The Amazing Atheist, if we're going to look at this Patreon effect, what was The Amazing Atheist's base money that he was getting from his YouTube channel before Patreon? Now, if you look at socialblade.com and you look up The Amazing Atheist and you use the calculation that I'm using here, which is 3 times the bottom of the range for estimated monthly earnings, and this holds true for a lot of YouTubers, it's not exact. I'm saying The Amazing Atheist makes $3.6 thousand per month off just ad revenue off his YouTube channel before Patreon. Now, in the past few months, The Amazing Atheist has stopped broadcasting Patreon on his actual channel, the Amazing Atheist channel, and it looks as though he ported a whole bunch of patrons from his The Amazing Atheist Patreon account, because it used to have hundreds of patrons and it was thousands of dollars, and it was part of my calculations back 6 months ago. Now, right now it has 18 patrons for $61. So he stopped promoting people giving him money in that way. But the Amazing Atheist brand extends to something else called the Drunken Peasants Podcast. Now, the Drunken Peasants Podcast is now at $9,889 per month. Which, if you just round it up to 10,000, that's $120,000 a year for 2 to 3 hosts and equipment. That was probably readily available given the amount of money The Amazing Atheists already made. And we're just talking about ad revenue here. We're not talking about projects that collected a lot of money for things like websites and stuff that he's had, fundraisers for before. None of that. I know that that's a deep rabbit hole, but just try to follow me here. His regular AdSense revenue, $3.6 thousand a month. That comes out to $43.2 thousand a year. That's better than a lot of people make. Okay. Poverty level being what for somebody with a family the size of his, 28,000. He's making enough to hold down rent, pay for all the bills, have a nice lease on a car, and get some new video equipment, and have a jammin' internet speed with fiber optics, and all that, just based on his income from ad revenue. And people are throwing $10,000 a month at a Patreon for him and Scotty and whatever other host fees that they want to do with their podcast. I don't know the breakdown on their money, but I know that if I had a brother or, somebody who I was partnered with on a podcast and I had to split $120,000, it wouldn't be that hard of a split, you know. And I wouldn't be angry if I was shafted a little bit on the 50-50, you know. What I'm saying here is all revenue taken into consideration, The Amazing Atheist is banking more than $100,000 a year. Okay? We're going to take that little reach and average up because he's selling books, t-shirts, whatnot. He's got the Audible trials that he's pimping all the time. I don't know his actual finances that well. All I know is what I can see. Okay? If you're going to give someone monthly an amount of money because you like their product, you can see this level of ad revenue that they're already making. And I want you to consider, if you're going to give money, what is that money going to do? Now, being as I've been a subscriber of The Amazing Atheist for years, and I have probably watched at least half of his videos as they came out, I can tell you the effect that Patreon has had on his channel. Now, previously, it seemed like anytime The Amazing Atheist was going to go on vacation or not be able to upload a video, he had some sort of rule that if you don't post daily, something bad's going to happen to your YouTube channel. Because if he couldn't post a video, he would invite a guest to post for him. Right? These were Jacqueline Glenn. These were Mr. Repzion. A whole bunch of people have had a guest video on his channel. But now, what happens when he's not available to make a video? That day gets filled with a segment from the Drunken Peasants podcast. Basically, either in its entirety or a snippet. This is not an increase in production value at all. I preferred when The Amazing Atheist actually was on screen and was talking about a subject. His rants, to me, were enjoyable then. The podcast, not so much. And I know that taste is subjective, but please, disagree with me below if you think that those Drunken Peasants podcasts are better quality than what he used to make just every day for 10 minutes with a scripted video. The Drunken Peasants podcasts are largely unscripted. In fact, one of the things that's happened since all of this Patreon money has been sent their way is The Amazing Atheist will be on this podcast. This is TJ, right? TJ's on the podcast, and he asks Scotty, hey, what do we have next to listen to? And this, to me, is reflective of a dynamic of somebody else is making a queue of things that would be good for the Drunken Peasants podcast, collecting ideas, and then live, in situ, without a script, they talk about it. And the quality is not as good as a scripted video. He used to make videos scripted by himself, and they were of a better quality. Now, crap videos where somebody else is coming up with the ideas to run by him, and he's on the spot, live. The return on the money that's being given to him for making his art has long since expired. The whole point of giving people money in order to support their art is that their art will get better for the money. Okay? This is a case where it is not getting better. It is getting worse progressively. And it's actually affecting the rest of you YouTubers out there that are actually content creators and watch my channel. And here's my argument for that. The person that is collecting ideas to run past The Amazing Atheist, he's obviously trolling other YouTube channels for content. Now, this is something that Ray William Johnson did to great success before TJ ever turned to this. But basically, everyone else's content is being reviewed. This is not original content being created. This is more like the rap sampling YouTube mix. Okay, this is your content being played by The Amazing Atheist on the Drunken Peasants channel, and when it does get played, do people actually need to go to your channel? No, they've got TJ's take on it, and they've got most of the content anyway, and poof, Creative Commons, or sorry, what do we call that? Free speech, I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart. Free speech. I can make your video into mine by putting commentary and criticism over it, and then you can't, come at me for using your content because I made something different out of it, right? Except for what he's been making has been crap, and he's been trolling everyone else's channels, or the person that he has paid to bring him ideas has been trolling everybody else's channels for ideas. Those ideas get played out on the Drunken Peasants channel, live with no script, and they get treatment that is less than what YouTubers who are making less than $10 a month on Patreon give that subject matter. For example, some of the topics that I brought up on my channel that then conveniently ended up on the Drunken Peasants 2 days later. Shanny for Christ and the not believing in the moon. Now, this could also have come from Aldous Valor or whatnot, but as soon as lesser YouTubers, find a little bit of traction with a subject, it seems like it gets picked up by the Drunken Peasants channel. But also, very uniquely, when I made a video about E. Percy just a couple of videos ago, Ernest Percy shows up as a topic on the Drunken Peasants podcast, and it flopped because they lined up the wrong video. They wanted to make fun of him based on the flat earth theory that I talked about in length, and I also explained how this guy used to be a big YouTube atheist, and I went in depth on the subject. Okay? They queued up a video where he's talking about children being taken away, and they're like, "Oh crap! I don't know what to say about that." Next. Haha! He believes in flat Earth. Let's go to the next. They fucked it up. Okay, they're trolling for topics to talk about, and they don't give it enough attention to even really discuss the topic. This is the effect that giving this person more money has had on his channel. This is the effect. Okay? Talking about the topic du jour, whatever's hot in the news, rather than finding something interesting on your own, regardless of, what you think the pulse of your viewers is on, what you think they're talking about already. Finding something interesting is not something that he's doing. Okay? He's just talking about what everyone else is talking about. Yeah, that might be a recipe for continued success on a channel that is now too big to fail and can just dial it in. This is dialing it in. He doesn't care anymore. This is a cash cow. Okay, so that's my takedown of what has happened after Patreon funds with The Amazing Atheist. Feel free to disagree in the comments below. My Patreon is down there, and I'm going to put the two other Patreons that I discussed in this video because I think they're more deserving than me, probably, and still are underappreciated by you guys. So, until the next rant, which will be coming soon.